doing this? Why do you like this? And I would say, well, it's because I work for the church and I believe that the church is really brilliant. I think it's powerful. And I say, hey, can we get a piece of that? I mean, we wouldn't say it like that, and it would take a long time to develop. But eventually they say, I really want to do something like this. And we had one guy, his name's Amy. I love this guy so much. He's one of the best musicians you will ever meet. And he's so passionate. And he wouldn't call himself a Christian, but we got to know him really well. And after a while, him and some of his mates, we used to go down to the pub. We have pubs in England. So okay for Christians to go in London. I promise. We asked our pastor, and we'd sit together and we'd have some orange juice as we talk with one another. And we'd sit together and we'd talk with one another, and we'd talk about God. And it wouldn't be like, I'd prepare a little sermon or a Bible study for them. No, it wouldn't be like that. They would ask me questions. They'd say, hey, so this God of yours, I thought it was all about Sunday and having to sing songs and stuff. And I was like, no. And they're like, so what is it about? I said, it's all about this radio station. How is it about this radio station? I said, because this radio station is bringing you hope. I said, this radio station is enabling you to be creative. And that's what God has created you to be. I said, this radio station is about making relationships with other people and learning to love them and respect them. I said, this radio station is about bringing peace to our community. Do you know Jesus was a peacemaker? He said, blessed are the peacemakers. Did he? Yeah, he did. I thought it says eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth in the Bible. Oh, yeah, forget that bit, that's Old Testament. And we'd have these wonderful conversations in a pub. And I'd call it church. And it was church for them. And a few of us, we used to do this together. And actually this guy, Amy, he had a child with his girlfriend. He wasn't married, and he had this baby. And I'm sure he came to me and he thought I was going to be really judgmental. When he told me, I said, how do you feel about that? He said, I wasn't really ready to be a father. See, I didn't judge him to start with, I just asked him a question. He judged himself, actually, which was interesting. And as he began to talk about it, I said, you know what, we should christen your child. We should baptise them, dedicate them to God. What? He said. So I explained to him what it was. He said, I would love to do that, he said, would you be able to come to my house and we'll do it in the garden with my family? Are you kidding me? This stuff doesn't happen when we ask people to come to our churches. Not with people like Amy, anyway. We've got to be the kind of church that goes somewhere, rather than says, come to us. And you know what happens? The crazy thing is, as you start going to people, and you meet them in their crazy little world, and you learn what they're about, and you tell them about Jesus in a way that they understand, they want to know a little bit more about what you're doing. And sometimes you find they turn up in your crazy little church, and you're doing your crazy little things. Sometimes they hate it, but sometimes they love it. And sometimes they stay, and sometimes they change it. And when they change it, it's beautiful. Because when they change it, it becomes what church should be. It becomes an all-people's church, for all people. Whether they're rich, poor, whether they're black or white, whether they're disabled, whoever they are, it becomes a church for them. And in order to do that, you need to do a really difficult thing. You need to not be judgmental. Because if you want people, if you want eunuchs to come to your church, if you want prostitutes to come to your church, you're going to have to develop a spirit of humility that says, I'm not going to judge you, I'm going to love you. I used to work for a church in Peckham. Sorry, this weekend's been emotional, isn't it? I used to work for a church in Peckham, which is like the ghetto of London. And I decided when I left Bible college that I wanted to go to the one place in England that was the most dangerous and stupidest place to go. And Peckham's the kind of place that you lock your car door in. Peckham's the kind of place you would not go on your motorbike when you get pushed off. Peckham's the kind of place that if you go on a train, you make sure that it doesn't stop there, it goes straight through. So I decided to live there. And Beckham was fascinating, but I worked for a church, and the really frustrating thing about this church was it wasn't inclusive. And I remember sitting in a meeting. They had these things called PCC meetings. Do you have meetings like, what are your meetings? Do you have like an AGM or something? Anyway, we used to have these meetings and they used to make me want to kill myself. Like, the good news, are you kidding me? This is awful, get me out of this place. And we used to sit there and we discuss various things. And I remember one time, the vicar of the church, I was very English, and he was from Eton, which is a very modern school, it was very posh there. And he had this meeting, and on the agenda was about homosexuality, and I hadn't really developed any kind of theological understanding of the issue. I'd been at Bible college for 3 years, I'd spent a lot of money, but I didn't learn very much. And so I'm sat there, and he's talking about, you know, if a homosexual comes into our community, then we need to tell them that they're wrong. And everyone's kind of nodding their heads. If a homosexual comes into our community, we tell them that they're wrong and they don't repent, then we need to publicly announce it in the church. If that doesn't work, then we'll just have to throw them out. I'll throw them out of the church, okay? So I'm sitting there thinking, this doesn't sound like the gospel I know. Right? Whatever you think about homosexuality, this doesn't sound like the gospel. This doesn't sound like the kind of thing Jesus would do. So I'm sat there, and then he goes around, what would you do? Oh yeah, definitely agree with this. Vote yes, agree with this. And it got to me, and I said, do you know what, Hugh? I said, you're cleverer than I am. I said, your theology is better than mine. But something in my heart doesn't feel right about this. Something in my spirit doesn't feel right about this. I said, if we're going to be a real church, then we need to be a church that opens its doors to everyone, whoever they are, whatever they're about, whatever their story is. And Hugh, bless him, couldn't accept that. And do you know, I ended up leaving that church. Because I couldn't bear to think of those people coming into that church and being rejected, like they have been probably so many times before. You've got to be a go-to church. And when you become a go-to church, the strange thing is people come to you. And when people come to you, you've got to be inclusive and you can't be judgmental.